finish there, but they had so many close series, so many 2-1 losses. They are really trying to challenge for the top of the table because this is a team that has no championship points. If you want to make it to Worlds, you pretty much have to be at the very top, and that's going to be their goal.
So Zach still banned out against Envy. LirA actually has a play on that with one of those losses we have seen as he got through. Still a pretty formidable champion to go up against. Quick kills, the assassins, basically, for Bjergsen getting knocked out here in the beginning. His Syndra will not be a play.
Yeah, a lot of focus on Bjergsen. Not too atypical there.
Yep.
Kennen is another one that's just like been almost the most common of first picks. Things that are getting through the bans and almost always being grabbed up are things like Kennen, things like Elise, that people are really feeling are first pick worthy. Sometimes you will see those get through if people have a planned counter or feel like they can answer it in some way. Galio is another one that has been super high priority. You know, TSM got a win yesterday with it.
Hey.
Bjergsen playing mid.
He's pretty happy.
Yeah, and they had been getting so much criticism for playing that mid, but they have made it work. It gets through draft here. Envy's going to immediately grab it up. And now we get to see what is TSM's answer. Because we have to remember, this can go to multiple roles. This can go mid, this can go top, this can even go support. And Fiora is an amazing counter to it, and we saw CLG even flex Fiora mid for Huhi to be able to answer that. So if TSM is willing to play Fiora, you know, mid or top, you can just pick Fiora now and just lane swap to wherever the Galio is, but that is something that we haven't seen a lot of teams willing to do.
Ooh, so we do see that ban phase being the Kennen. A few things that are always banned against Envy. That Lee Sin, always banned against TSM, left up here. LirA's going to get the Elise after we see the Ashe also going to DoubleLift. And quick picks from Envy as well on their 2-3. Elise and Varus immediately. We'll see what TSM actually wants here. That Galio could be going top or mid.
Yeah, you can try to match roles. You can also go for another idea and look to go something different, right? Like sometimes if you want to pick up your support, you can get an advantage there, and then you ban out what your opponents have not done. With going with the Cassiopeia, we could see Galio go top and Pirean pick up something that he feels is a good matchup into that Cassio. I likely will see Envy probably banning away Fiora if they want to have that top, because that is still on the table right now and would be an option for Hauntzer. But at the same time, you could have Galio just play mid in Cassio. You will be giving Cassio a bit of a free lane to kind of farm and scale up, which can be a concern.
The back and forth
but
spam.
Yeah, it's obviously about making plays elsewhere on the map on Galio. It's not always about being lane dominant.
That's one of the things. It might just be Hauntzer on Renekton as it comes down to it. We'll have to see if this is a Biofrost ban to end things out. From the side of Team Envy, 12 seconds for TSM on their ban phase 2.
Yeah, no support bans coming through at all so far, and that is something that has been focused quite a bit. Thresh is one that people have been pretty concerned about getting through the draft, and that is still available. It's one of Biofrost's favorite champions. Playmaking supports really have been the name of the day.
TSM went to the Zyra con twice yesterday. She found quite a bit of troubles in the initiation, a little bit of the follow-up, finding the right hit. Seem to completely do without that. The Renekton rather does get banned, and they give him the Thresh. I feel like that's better for Biofrost actually in the end.
Yeah, Biofrost definitely going to be happy to have this go all the way through to the second pick phase to grab that up, but they're trying to make sure that they have some strong solo lanes, and that's why they're focusing these bans over on Hauntzer. You know, TSM taking away the Talia, that may seem like a strange ban if you haven't been watching a lot of Envy games, but Pirean has been playing it a lot. It's his most played champion by far. He had 6 Talia games, 3 Ahri, and then 1 of anything else. So, you know, definitely something that he wants to play. Rumble going to be picked up here for the top lane, so it will be a mid Galio unless something super crazy happens.
That Zyra also banned out. It's one of the most banned champions against Team Envy, so they're getting a few of their comfort picks in here. LirA on one of those aggressive junglers so we can get back to some victories. On the Ivern, the Gragas, the Zac, we usually see him, or we see him rather with the losses. Here you can go hard very early, and it is going to be that Gragas for TSM to level things out. Not the tankiest of teams on the side of TSM, but definitely can make a lot of things work in these team fights.
Yeah, they certainly can, and as it gets further into the game, they will get tankier, right?
For sure.
Because, you know, this Gragas is going to build up more and more tank stats, and once Lee Sin has a couple of damage items, he usually goes into tank, so they will be pretty tanky in the later stages, but definitely in those early stages, they're going to have to be careful. Before Thresh builds up those stats, he's going to be getting poked out by the Zyra, by the Varus, and, you know, Rumble should be bullying early against Hauntzer, but you know, with the early game builds that most top lane tanks are doing with the triple Dorans and stuff, you should be able to survive that lane, farm it out, and look to make plays elsewhere.
And they avoid the objective fights as well. Stay away from the equalizers, the Galio entrance. And a lot of control here from the bot lane within the fights. EnVy looking to have a good squad against TSMs. As likewise with their composition after picks and bans. Hashtag EnVy win, hashtag TSM win. See a lot of that focus towards the mid and top lane coming over from TSM. EnVy feels like they had to kind of control on Bjergsen and more so on Hauntzer. Those solo lanes are what they're going to try to also go after in the game.
And we'll see if they're going to be able to do that. EnVy has drafted themselves a very AoE-heavy teamfight comp. But honestly, I think that they're going to have a lot of struggles when you're running a 4 AP composition. One of the things, like, you know, when you are playing a top lane tank, you know, as Hauntzer is in this game, if the jungle, the mid, and the top laner are all AP, it's so hilariously free to just stack MR that it's like, you almost get to the point where you can't die. Like, you almost get to the point where you can't even be ganked because you're itemizing for both, like, the jungler, for the mid laner who might be roaming up, and for your laner all at the same time. So Hauntzer can stack MR. Bjergsen could go something like an early Banshee's Veil. You know, Svenskeren can rush Spirit Visage, get a Maw. Like, there's so many easy ways to stack MR against this team that the success for Apollo is almost required. Like, he's the only source of AD on EnVy's team. So if he is not successful, if he is not having a really strong game, EnVy's team comp will be doing very little.
I don't think we get much out of that, and everybody's just going to set up the line of scrimmage to begin things. We'll see TSM squad as well. If they do start to fall behind, they have the initiation of the arrow. They still absorb the fights with the counter initiation of the Cassiopeia. And we will be keeping an eye, as we said, on that bottom lane. DoubleLift and Biofrost consistently pushed in yesterday by Piglet and Matt, not allowing them to really have any strength in the early game, kind of pulling Svenskeren around a little more than he would like.
Another cool thing that you can always see in games like this is the players really start to customize, you know, their runes and masteries and stuff. Because something like scaling MR runes can be so strong against a team with 4 AP, right? And that's something that a lot of people can take to just have that much more of a little advantage against your opponents.
Something we don't talk about too much, the flat MR to the scaling, as most people are like, oh, we all know what that means, right? Take the flat for early aggression. Like you said, scaling against this team, you kind of are okay with waiting in the early game. Give them a few things, and you almost lull them into a false sense of security.
And scaling breaks even at a pretty early point in the game. Like, those runes are so efficient.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're taking scaling health seals, and then you can take the scaling magic resist as well. That can be pretty strong. And he's getting hooked into the turret, maybe? Oh, not quite.
Little lockdown, not level 2 yet, but they do stay with the autos, changing focus over to Apollo. Nicely done to make sure Apollo didn't get his damage in.
That was actually insanely close to being first blood, so it may not look like it, but he was ridiculously close to taking a turret shot. If he took a turret shot, Biofrost ignites, he's probably dead. So that was very dangerous for EnVy. And Hakuho, lucky for him, did not quite get pulled into that turret range.
It's actually something you see more and more. I wouldn't say more and more, I guess. I'll retract that statement, but more so. Yesterday, the Zyra con lane, DoubleLift and Biofrost were going in at level 1. They were trying to get that even before 2, maybe 2 or 3 minions, so it wasn't going to happen in the fight. There again, we saw it quite a ways before that. Teams are definitely trying to make things happen before the level 2 mark you're usually expecting.
Yeah, anytime you see that window of opportunity, you're going to look for it. And LirA is up here on the top side. This would be a super ill-advised dive, I think. So he's just going to farm this out. And if Svenskeren was coming to dive, you know, or sorry, rather coming to gank, then he'll have that kind of safety, that protection from his own jungler. It's something that's really smart to do anytime your top laner is in a position like this where he's pushing it all the way into the turret. Because you can either look for a dive or you're protecting him. Like, either way, that is not wasted time. Plus, he steals away a camp, so even better.
Turning back in the lane. Bit of a miss on the winds, but he's going to stack this wave. Should be able to harass Bjergsen on the turret. Svenskeren should have the range to do that. Yeah, Biofrost gets himself to a safe spot. Another reason I love that Thresh play is you can... Oh, that's me, man. No lantern? All right, all right.
Wanted to take the safe way out. He actually took a lot of damage, and going over that lantern, I mean, if you get rooted up, Hakuho does still have Ignite. Would be scary.
So you blame it on Biofrost? No, I'm just kidding. Ooh, nice look on the hook. Waiting for that minion wave as it peels up towards the top side of DoubleLift. Seraph with pretty good positioning here, in and out of the brush. He needs to feed in auto attacks. He's denying the mission. But no real jungler pressure just yet. It seems like they're kind of tracking each other a little bit more before they try to get to a lane.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these guys have essentially done fully mirrored clears. Yeah. Even all the way to counter jungling each other's Krugs. And Seraph up on the top side, his job is basically just to push in the wave and hope that Hauntzer misses some of the CS, just like that. I mean, you can't get every single one under the turret, and you know, Hauntzer is going to be running out of mana. Rumble is a resourceless champion with extremely strong push. That is one of the advantages that you will have. And he can even take this time to get an early base off and perhaps try to force Hauntzer to expend his teleport to get back to lane.
Oh, that's pretty. 1,800 gold, comes in with a pretty annoying buy of Merc Treads. With a vision as well.
It's pretty interesting to me, actually. I'm kind of surprised that he goes for the early Merc Treads like that. Generally, you only see like super early Merc Tread buys if you're playing against like an Elise or something. Like, you know, Lee Sin doesn't have any CC. It's also a physical damage jungler, but it will be effective later. And there's a ton of CC from, you know, the Ashe and the Thresh as well. Here's Mega caught out here.
Ooh, a rinse and repeat on the cleanse in mid with vision of the jungler. Svenskeren out bot side. Hakuho, both of them down to half HP here. Double teleport. And remember, this is going to be Seraph coming back. That's not damage on his item.
Oh,
that is only
safeguard.
Biofrost gets out alive. LirA looking for one last shot. Hauntzer. The rest of the team isn't going to be able to make a play off of this, but they do push out Biofrost. Svenskeren with the save.
That was very close. The Lantern Shield plus the safeguard from Svenskeren. Keeping Biofrost alive. It looked like DoubleLift actually did not have Biofrost targeted when he used his heal, so I think it healed someone closer. We'll have to see that replay again, but Cassio was able to use the Miasma to ground a teleport coming out of Pirean, so Pirean's teleport got canceled there.
Would have been a very big change in the fight, that's for sure.
That's a level 6 Galio. I mean, they can then try to dive if that guy comes in when Biofrost is very low.
And it seemed like in that instance that was Bjergsen's flash to do so as well. Yeah, so his cleanse was blown from LirA, then that flash. The play bottom was big for TSM, but can Envy now kind of roll back around to mid lane and work off of that? Top side is going to be in favor of Envy members. But Svenskeren is just on the heels of LirA.
And Hauntzer is now without his ultimate. You know, that was the ultimate burn, and LirA is coming in here. He does have his flash. Sven is running up as well.
Seraph just hit level 6. Overheats as Hauntzer gets himself to safety, and they do see Svenskeren coming through. So good try for the counter by Svenskeren, but it doesn't look like Envy's going to give up.
Yeah, I don't think they can pull off this dive with Svenskeren in the area. But still, they forced a flash out of Hauntzer there. It would have been an easy disengage, but he actually expended his ultimate earlier. And here is this play again, the nice hook over on the Hakuho. And as soon as the TP comes in, TSM is just bailing out. They're trying to get out. So let's watch DoubleLift's heal. The heal does, I don't think it went on Biofrost, hard to tell, but look how ridiculously low he is. The Lantern Shield, the safeguard, barely saving him there. And then meanwhile, Bjergsen was interrupting that teleport coming from Galio, and
plays all around the map. Need like 7 eyes to see everything.
TSM, though, are getting the farm advantages. You know, no kills have come out just yet, but they're up quite a bit of gold, thanks mostly to the bot and the mid lane there, who are getting those edges. And Cassio should have a pretty strong matchup into Galio. Certainly having the sustain, you know, from your Twin Fangs when the poison is up, that does help you deal with some of the poke, and you really can start to take over that lane against Galio, who can't really keep up with the sustained DPS that Cassio can put out.
She's like the AP bot ADC, as we say.
Exactly, yeah. She's essentially like that marksman, AP marksman, right? Like she's putting out so much consistent damage that it can be tough for Galio, because Galio really likes the short trades. You know, you use all your abilities, you use the Winds of War, you hit them with the taunt, you throw it on your E, but now roam to topside. Doesn't look like this is going to work at all. Yeah. That's a tough one to pull off because there's no CC. Like, what is Seraph supposed to do to set that up, right? Unless Hauntzer wastes his body slam forward, that's never going to work. So you should be trying to combine that with LirA, because LirA can repel forward, you know, can hit the cocoon, buy you time and move forward onto their opponent so that that heroic entrance will actually connect. And Hauntzer keeps trying to knock him back into him with that ultimate, but that's twice in a row. He hasn't quite been able to find the angle. You know, previously he was looking, just trying to knock him into the turret. This one, you know, it's one of those things where if you can knock him into your waiting arms, you can sometimes pick up those solo kills.
I mean, a lot of Seraph's damage relies on him being almost just overheated, right? Hauntzer's like, all right, you have boots, I have 3 rings now. We can definitely take this fight.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
in a few minions.
Hauntzer has a lot more combat stats,
Yeah.
right? The Merc Treads are extremely expensive, and to buy that as a first item, you really don't get much of anything.
He also had to piece the Haunting Guise, and does not have that completed just yet. A little bit of a gold lead here, as he said, for TSM in the lanes. Bjergsen going for the full stack build. He picks up his Catalyst, and the Tier was his first back. Dark Seal is there already.
You can see he also picked up a Null Magic Mantle just to have some casual magic resist against so much AP. It's very smart just to do that little buy. It's going to be super efficient for him, and they are looking.
Oh, the flash forward to stop Bjergsen in his tracks. They lock down onto Hakuho. Bjergsen's going to have that Dark Passage to safety if they even need it. We'll see what happens here as a result of this fight. Pirean's trying to cut off any exits here along with LirA. It looks like TSM may just be able to walk down the lane.
Yeah, TSM could get out, but Envy felt like they had to come down to just defend the ability for TSM to take first turret, right? You know, if they don't roam down, TSM will just knock down that turret, and they're able to pull off a very nice play. Ashe arrow connects on Hakuho. They know he has no flash, so this is well set up in advance. They roam down the jungler, roam down the mid. Hakuho can knock it out of there. Apollo has to flash too, and that's a free first blood for them. Pressure on the bot side, well played by TSM, and they're going to turn it into a dragon as well. Pretty interesting to see where Hauntzer goes with his itemization. You know, a lot of people have been talking about, you know, Abyssal Mask and things like this and some of the different itemization options for MR. You know, I think he certainly should be rushing a Spirit Visage, but, you know, where does he go after that? Is he going to go towards that Abyssal Mask? Is he going to feel like he's comfortable just sitting on that much MR? Because there's different strategies with dealing with these sorts of compositions. Generally, what I prefer is you just stack full MR because 4 of the sources is magic damage, and then you can actually just try to focus out Apollo, right? Because if you can take down Apollo first in the fight, that's the only AD that the team has, and they have a lot of ways to do that. But LirA coming in, nice sidestep
on the Cocoon. Hauntzer has flash up if he even needs to use it. He holds it, blast LirA back, very low. Looks like the blue buff transfer is over to Hauntzer. He could refuel on this one. They call Pirean to the top side, and he has been out of lane so much. It's just been giving Bjergsen free time, and Bjergsen will make it back to mid lane first again.
They've been trying so hard to make something work here on the top side against Hauntzer, but it's just not happening. And Svenskeren comes up with a sick play. So Hauntzer does actually body slam forward. This is, you know, prompting that gank. He doesn't have his escape available. Really nice sidestep. The equalizer is not that well placed at all. And then the kick flash from Svenskeren, flash forward, and the barrel takes him out.
Oh, Hakuho coming up. Deja Vu is the hook. Hits from Biofrost. We were wondering if that would be a last ban from Envy's side, but Bio gets his Thresh.
Gets tagged by 2 arrows, 2 hooks, goes down twice. And Zyra is very squishy. You know, that's gonna happen if you get caught out at all. You will be getting burst down, and TSM's bot lane looking good. The mid lane is ahead, top lane is ahead. Everything seems to be rolling here in the early game for TSM, which traditionally is really where Envy's strength lies.
Exactly. TSM always said to get a little ahead of ourselves. We get into too many plays where there's not enough backup, and with tempering the early game, it was a little too much yesterday, and they've refined that once again here. Able to steal Envy's medicine and use it against themselves in the early game. 3-0, still an option here for LirA to make a play, but like we said, there's not much crowd control in the lanes to make that happen with the follow.
And this is nice. You know, Biofrost just pairing up with Svenskeren. He's sitting back in the river to A, if one person shows up, then it's a surprise engage, and B, if multiple people show up, to lantern him out. So giving him the safety to establish this vision control, which is such an important part of competitive League of Legends, and now they're going to extend that, move in, try to take away the red buff. They know that they are stronger, and they're looking for the plays, but TP is coming in.
Hakuho flashes forward, just misses Biofrost. They cut off Svenskeren, but he could have a safeguard out of this fight, and they just walk away from the ult and teleport in.
Yeah.
The flash from Hakuho.
Biofrost is there waiting with the lantern, so they're able to get out very quickly, anticipating anything that could be coming in. And all of Envy's plays just don't feel like they're working. Every time they blow the TP, every time the Galio roams top or roams somewhere else, it doesn't feel like they're able to get anything done. And it's because of the preparation, the vision control, and the foresight that's coming out of TSM.
You have to almost play in the head of Biofrost or what Hauntzer's going to do with that ult, where the lantern's going to take somebody. if EnVy doesn't have vision past the current fight, which is River, and they don't really know what the exit for TSM will be. Hakuho trying to do that right now, though, encroaching that vision in just a little bit more. This Hauntzer here starting to have his way with Seraph in the top lane. 138 to 117 in CS. He's just MR and a bit of cooldown, and he can stay in that lane forever.
It's really not what you want to see. You know, your Rumble, who's supposed to be kind of that early lane bully against those tanks, pushing them in, denying CS, you know, getting the advantages. Partially because Seraph TP'd away and Hauntzer didn't have to match. You know, that has gotten him a CS advantage. You definitely don't want to see that. Now LirA didn't even use his smite, so Hauntzer just steals it away.
Pushed around in the jungle. A little bit of late roam from Seraph here. We'll see if Hauntzer takes the fight. And he just says, oh, back to lane, there's too big of a wave.
That's definitely one that LirA should have been able to get, right? Yeah, maybe you want to try to pass that over to Pirean, but if they're coming to invade, if there is a threat of losing the buff, then you just need to smite it away. You need to take the smaller victory, which is just not giving it away to your opponents, because now that just makes the top lane even harder for Seraph. He's already losing. A blue buff is now over there. You get the additional gold and experience, too, for stealing that away. So Hauntzer, everything's looking really good, and this is going to be such a key member for TSM in this game against 4 AP. If he gets really tanky, there's no way you're going to be able to deal with the Gragas.
It seems like what from Svenskeren was saying before, there's 3 lanes to try and make happy. It seems like top lane and bottom lane was kind of made happy here. Bjergsen was able to stay safe in mid, get himself a lead, and we've seen a lot of Hauntzer attention and that hit down early from Svenskeren about level 4 or 5.
Exactly, and it's about that push and pull. You can't be everywhere. You have to pick and choose, and it has to be part of the game plan. And in this lane for Bjergsen, he's on a hyper-scaling mid laner who's really going to get a lot out of the farm. You know, Bjergsen doesn't need to be killing Galio to be more useful than Galio later, right? Like, you just let Cassio sit and farm, Bjergsen has a CS advantage, and he's smiling because he's going to be a monster later in the team fights.
He's already up to 476 on that tier. Probably by 20 minutes, he'll have it fully stacked.
So look at all the early MR that is being picked up by TSM. This is very smart, and yes, it seems obvious, but we see games, you know, LirA just the other day was playing against 380 carries and was building MR first, so it's not something in professional play that you can take for granted. You know, QSS, second item on DoubleLift. You have a Hex Drinker already on Svenskeren. You have that Null Magic Mantle, you know, done on Bjergsen and Spirit Visage on Hauntzer. They're all picking up pieces of MR. I expect Bjergsen to get something like a Banshee's Veil. You could see a full Maw. Like, there's all these options to pick up, and you're just so tanky.
Like this guy. Yeah. Quite tanky. Spirit Visage Merc Treads doesn't really feel any impact from that hit. Good damage, though, from Seraph here on Biofrost and Svenskeren. They may have some resistances, but they don't have too much HP behind them still. They got to be careful. And they still take down that first turret for themselves as they back off, rightfully so, from the engage.
Yeah, they get that first turret. Hauntzer looks like he wants to stick around a little bit, but with Rift Herald coming down, this turret is pretty much doomed. TSM should base and just try to set up shop at the second turret. You don't want to give up the second one there. They already got the first turret. As long as they can defend at tier 2, they are totally fine.
Mountain Drake, I believe we saw DoubleLift top side, and he's just approaching the turret. You were talking about the Quicksilver Sash. Actually, interesting just in the position of buying that within this game. Yesterday versus Team Liquid, he bought that as one of his last items after getting hit in the base while trying to take the Nexus by Piglet. So really recognizing how much danger there is and how much it can help in this game.
And it's doubly effective this game because there's so much CC, and B, just the flat MR on it is ridiculously efficient against everyone here. I mean, there's the Zyra root, there's the Elise cocoon, there's the taunt from Galio, you know, the root from Varus. So there's all these things he can QSS, plus there is just the resistances. So, I mean, you could even see him go for the QSS and Nama this game. Like, things like this are going to be so efficient, and when you have such a huge damage source from Bjergsen in the mid lane, you don't need to be itemized as efficiently for DPS.
So, Hauntzer may be reading this. He does have Biofrost right behind him.
Sven here too.
Sven, they're going to do a lot of damage to Hauntzer, though. They throw everything and the kitchen sink at him. He's going to live out of that situation. Seraph's going to be the first one to go down with turret aggro. Arrow just misses just to the right of EnVy, meaning the engage does not happen. But they have been going at Hauntzer time and time again, and he still has not died.
Yeah, he just won't go down, and it seems like TSM keep living with slivers of health, the safeguard and the lantern shield, just like before, barely keeping them alive.
Those are the ones that make you stress out for the kills even later. We'll see here just how much he was able to absorb.
I mean, they see Svenskeren. They know that they are coming down, but they still decide to try to pull off that play. The Lantern Shield, the Safeguard, again, barely keeping him alive. Seraph is tanking up that turret. He goes down, and that would have been a second kill had LirA not flashed the arrow. So good flash by him to get out, but they are losing pressure all across the map.
Great choice hook by Biofrost there to deny an Apollo auto attack. That's all Hauntzer needed. He could not get it through as he was bound up. So the rest of TSM yet to die here. Still getting dove pretty hard. That's good for Envy though. Not that they're not getting kills, but they are still looking for these kills. They're just having TSM come out of the woodwork somehow, and each one, it comes down to having more vision again and being a little bit more prepped for those engagements.
I mean, the attempts are important, as you say, because they are going to get outscaled in this game. You can't actually go super late against this team with this massive front line and a hyperscaling Cassiopeia and 4 AP and expect to succeed. So they're continuously looking for the plays. Heroic entrance is available. They could go for it.
Very nice equalizer DoubleLift in the eyes of Seraph. He does not want to give up. He is hungry, and DoubleLift still is able to kite the fight out. He hits Seraph right on the backside. He says, don't let the arrow hit you on the way out. And it looks like TSM is able to turn this fight around. Pirean now running for his life as really the only tank on the team, and that's not a good sight.
Definitely not. I mean, he had to bail out so early. Seraph almost got taken down by Bjergsen. Apollo was chunked low with no summoners, so there's no one to support that tank, and Galio will not be able to survive in that situation. Just stopping the base.
Get off the turret. Minion wave coming in. The rest of the team's out, though. Hauntzer just pouring one out. 5-0 now as TSM take another fight.
Pour one out for the homies there. Bjergsen now has that Banshee's Veil completed. More MR being built up, and the Kindle Gem is almost for sure a Spirit Visage being built by Svenskeren. They're just going to be so hard to ever kill. And Bjergsen has 213 CS at 21 minutes, now has the kill. Like, he has just been free farming essentially this whole game, not really pressured at all by the Galio. And because LirA and the rest of the team had been trying to go at Hauntzer, that made it even easier for him to just sit and farm.
It's kind of like flying under the radar, but always being a very positive force.
And he's that insurance policy for TSM. He's the late game insurance policy because he's going to be a monster in these team fights if they cannot burst him down.
Well, everybody has a hand in the pie. 1 kill across the board. Team Penta for TSM here to start things off. We'll see where those resources start to go. Top lane is going to be taken down. The outer 3 turrets now in favor of TSM. They've only lost, what was it, the top turret. So
CP coming in now from Galio. They just have to keep trying. They know that they're going to get outscaled. They're looking for fights.
It's a good look for Envy. Svenskeren's going to start the fight dead if he can't take down Apollo. Apollo gets himself a cleanse to safety, and somehow
Svenskeren
makes it out with the CC of Biofrost and DoubleLift. They turn the fight around for
great ultimate.
2 in favor of TSM. Pirean way to the back line of the fight as Biofrost is in his own 2v1 situation. The cavalry arrives from over at Baron's side, and they look to wipe down Envy in the rest of the fight. 9-0 now for TSM.
Again, Svenskeren gets away with no HP, has all this early MR, able to survive. It's going to be so tilting for Envy. 4-0 for TSM. They're going to get the Baron in this game. It's looking almost impossible now for Envy.
From top to bottom, this is kind of what it looks like when you have that advantage in every lane and continue to push it. Svenskeren in a real tight spot here, and this is usually what we saw kind of crippling TSM in the past, but they're able to turn it around.
I really feel like we've seen a lot of missed equalizers there.
Yes.
You know, that one, again, was not on Svenskeren, even while he was CC'd. He barely survived, and the same thing happened top side. So Seraph not able to connect with that. Maybe they could have gotten the 1 kill, but they certainly wouldn't have won the fight anyway. Even Biofrost gets away from that, and there's just, the carries are untouched for TSM. When you're struggling to kill off the jungler and the support, and the mid laner and the ADC are free firing, you're never really going to be able to win that fight. So not even close in that one for Envy, and their only option is to continue to try. They can't sit back. They can't, just allow TSM to build this gold lead even bigger because we're closing out on 10,000 gold lead at 23 minutes.
Almost seems like a hill Envy can't climb at this point.
Yeah.
But they have the Zyra. If it's a misengage or a missiege here by TSM, they can be under the turret. Stranglethorn locks them down with a good equalizer. The fight is turned around. DoubleLift pretty close. That death sentence, or I'm sorry, Dark Passage is really able to let them play in risky situations. Pirean now has to be up against Hauntzer. He has more of a cooldown on the ultimate, so they may be able to play this map in a way that allows them to start absorbing some CS and slow down TSM, because right now they can't really take the fight, they just have to absorb what's happening. Hope it goes their way.
Yeah, Envy does have good wave clear. That is one thing working for them, but LirA getting caught out.
Sven under the turret. About
Not
500
again.
HP. Gets himself, no! Bjergsen looking to finish Apollo. Almost goes solo under the turret, verse 3. The help of Biofrost there again. Just on the tail side of the fight. Hauntzer, he's been up top the whole time, just having a party by himself, and he's enjoying it.
Yeah, he doesn't have to match. I mean, Galio ults away, so it's giving him free time on the turret. Bot lane was being pushed in here as well, so TSM pressuring on all sides, and really, the jaws are closing on Envy.
These little situations with the ability to escape from the jaws of death with the dark passage, really allowing Hauntzer to have fun. The team can get themselves to a point where Envy thinks they can take the fight. Pull back, you've already drawn Pirean away. Hauntzer has more free time up top, and they keep what I call yo-yoing Envy back and forth. They want it, then they don't want it, but they make Envy think they're going to stay the whole time. Svenskeren's already backed off. He's taken Mountain Drake, third dragon of the game. TSM has quite the control here.
I mean, they're literally taking everything. They're doing everything at once because they're so far ahead that Envy cannot respond to anything. They're taking the dragon while they're farming the jungle, while they're pushing the turrets. It's like, normally you are not allowed to do all these things at the same time because your opponents are strong enough that they can answer and crush one side when you're doing too many objectives at once, too many things at once. But TSM is so far ahead, and Envy has no vision, outside just the jungle wards that they just put down now from LirA, that they don't even know where TSM is. They don't know what they're doing. They can't respond to anything.
3 items on Bjergsen already. 2 and boots here for Pirean. You can see just how far behind here. 11,000 gold for Bjergsen, 8,000 for Pirean. That's just a mid lane situation at this point. Hauntzer feeling like he can take a nitty-gritty 2v1, and he is correct. Svenskeren says, I'm in. Oh, they get the Chain of Corruption now and half of LirA's HP. They're starting these fights off with such an upper hand, it almost seems impossible for Envy to find a way through this puzzle, a way to orchestrate around TSM because they are tap dancing their way through the in-hits and into the base. 10-0, 26 minutes on the clock, and they're making quick work of Envy's base now.
Yeah, this is just brutal. I mean, the adaptive helm is complete now for Hauntzer here too. He's just walking straight forward, not a care in the world. Knows that there's no way Envy can ever take him down, and has that security blanket of the Thresh. So TSM closing in. They're looking to just finish this one out early.
You just said you give them more than one thing to think about. They got the top wave lane on their plate now. Can they drop Sven? They finally do. There's a kill on the side of TSM, and that makes them even angrier as they start going for Seraph. It looks like this might just be the game. A double kill for Hauntzer as he was focused all game long, but gets his pay at 4-4. And 14-1, 27 minutes in, TSM starts on the Nexus turrets, and Envy will be looking for game 2 here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been thinking about game 2 for a while now because this one was brutal. And Envy never got anything going. The first kill of the game for them as their Nexus is going down.
27 minutes.
Slaughters them.
TSM take down Envy.
Oof, that's a tough one. And that's what it's gonna look like when you draft that sort of composition and you're not able to really get ahead, when you're not able to snowball, when you're not able to make plays. It's so easy to itemize. Everyone on TSM picking up early MR and making it just look so easy to survive. Pirean was not able to be effective with his roams. He did try, very often to go up to the top lane and to go bot lane and to move around, but it was always just a little bit too short for Envy. And it's got to be frustrating for them, barely missing out on these kills time and time again. Can really have that snowballing effect. But it's kind of something you could maybe question a little bit, that they're not going for someone like the Cassio and instead nonstop focusing the Gragas, who is, building, he's very tanky
in a
innately.
lane you started boots as well, where you're trying to get kill pressure to that lane. And like you said, that was kill pressure with the Galio. That wasn't much that we saw LirA trying to make a cocoon play for that top lane rumble. So the CC was lacking a lot. Also, you're playing, it's Seraph. It kind of confused me that Seraph, the guy that has carried since Envy's creation, and he was in the top lane, he's the one playing the Kennen, which was banned out. But not that that Rumble would ever build defense. Straight damage, straight carry for the top lane, and Seraph trying to do his thing, but it was much different this game.
No, it definitely wasn't working. I mean, Cassio is much more gankable. You have so much gank assistance from Galio. Like, Galio plus the Rumble roaming down, plus an Elise, that seems like you could target the Cassiopeia and focus Bjergsen very hard and maybe make something happen there. But they were trying to utilize the roams, never happened, and they fell hopelessly behind very early.
Well, there's a game 2 to go. TSM with a big upper hand and momentum here, but for a deeper dive into that game, let's check in with our analysts.
Thank you very much, Riv. A near perfect game out of TSM, 27-19 official game time. Their fastest win of the split here over EnVy. And for two teams that are coming in at 3-2, you know, kind of mid-pack, looking to make that kind of statement game, statement series up into the top echelon, it's a good start for TSM.
Yeah, a couple of strange things going on in this game. There were some plays that Mark's getting into later that were pretty close, but yes, both these teams are at 3-2 coming in, but you look over to last split, and it was a first versus last place team.
Yes.
So this much more looked like a spring split version of TSM versus EnVy with the way they ended up playing in this game.
Before we get to those plays, Mark, talk to me about Champ Select, because with Pirean, we've talked about throughout the first couple weeks of the season how integral the Taliyah pick has been to a lot of their victories and success, and here TSM opts to not let them have it.
Yeah, Jet and I were joking about how this is the most boring standard TSM draft you're ever going to see. A tank top, Elise in jungle, you know, Thresh, Ashe bot lane. And the critical part was taking the Cassio last rotation on the first pick ban phase and then banning the Taliyah, because the only things we've really seen Pirean perform on is the Ahri and Taliyah. Yeah. You ban one out, you don't want to play Ahri into Cassio most of the time unless you're super confident in that matchup, which, you know, it's Bjergsen. So probably don't want to take that side. And then after that, you see that he gets the Galio flex to him and is largely a non-factor when we're used to seeing him roam around the map early with LirA and be the kind of catalyst for a lot of early plays.
So a vanilla draft, but an intelligent draft out of TSM coming into the game.
Vanilla as it gets for TSM, but that's also TSM's bread and butter. They mentioned how they're trying to do these other things. Bjergsen memes about being able to win with Galio mid, which he was able to do once yesterday against Team Liquid, but that's the type of draft TSM should be able to stomp with, and that's actually the type of thing that they have said they actually don't want to play that much in the LCS because they win so easily with it.
Right, and here we see it showcased. But now I want to dive into those plays that you were talking about, because EnVy, you know, there was no lack of effort here in this game for this squad in terms of looking for plays and, again, pressing for those early advantages that they so often find.
Right, you see them trying to open up on the Bjergsen, they get a free cleanse, and while that's happening, Sven's turning a gank on the bot side, both teleports come in, and Biofrost overextends a little bit here. And you see how close he is to dying. The last tick of Flame Spitter, gonna be able to finish him off if he gets one more, but just in time, the Lee Sin Safeguard comes in, they barely get out there. Here, LirA and Seraph are trying to turn a gank onto Hauntzer, who just goes aggressive at the wrong time. If this Cocoon lands, this is actually a decent equalizer because it's going to stay on top of the stunned up Hauntzer. Doesn't end up working out, he just walks out. Obviously, it can still be angled better as well.
Yeah, good sidestep by Hauntzer, and then it gets turned around, even though they throw the Galio ult down onto Seraph, the barrel finishes him off. And these are a lot of near misses, so it's interesting for EnVy because they were running plays, so to speak, that were good plays, but they were missing all of the shots. The skill shots were bad, the Galio ults were bad, the Rumble ults were bad, and they didn't get a kill until right at the very end of the game, where I think Svenskeren ended up dying once.
And in that death, Sven made EnVy walk forward to kill him, so then it's an easy chase down for the rest of TSM. And it was just the kind of game where it looks horribly, horribly lopsided, but a couple things break differently, and it's a close game. Maybe not an EnVy win, but...
Well, that first kill that we were looking at, the near miss on Biofrost, that was only 5 minutes into the game, 5.5 minutes into the game. Again, if that's, you know, ends up being the first kill of the game, things could go completely in the other direction. As we know, EnVy has been able to accumulate massive early game leads, the average being up there in the 1K, 1K plus at 15 and 20. This game, though, oof. I mean, down 2,600 gold at 15. Yeah. I mean, that's a 3.5K difference from their normal.
And like we said, the way it came about was a lot of the time they were still playing the way that they've been playing all split long. It's just TSM being one of the best mechanical teams in the league, playing situations out just slightly better. That juke that Hauntzer pulled in that topside one that you mentioned is one where a lot of top laners probably just get hit there and die.
Absolutely, and I don't even know if he had vision of the Elise coming up there, so there were definitely good plays.
Not really, he just had that sense. It's that top laner sense that the Elise is about to come around the corner. I want to dive into our next play. This is 22 minutes in, 5 minutes before the conclusion of the game, up around Baron, a 4-0 for TSM here on, again, a lot of missed skill shots for EnVy.
And it's kind of the continuation of what we saw before. I mean, the fact that Svenskeren doesn't die here is a little bit ridiculous, and then he also gets to kill the enemy jungler. Just makes things go from bad to worse.
Right, I mean, you can talk about the Rumble equalizer being bad, but the Ashe arrow hits LirA right as he goes spider form to execute. By the time the stun wears off and he repels, Sven has walked out of range, so he can't land on. There's just a myriad of little things being off, as well as some big ones with some of the Rumble equalizers. And once again, no kills after almost killing someone right at the start of the fight, and that's the one that leads to Baron and really kind of seals the game for TSM.
A very pretty gold graph, though, for TSM. And so while we talk about the missed opportunities for EnVy, you know, the solid effort, but the missed opportunities, TSM capitalizes on that quite well, taking their advantages and playing them smartly out through the remainder of the game. Hauntzer's going to be receiving player of the game this time around, absorbing all that pressure in the top lane. As was mentioned, if he doesn't sidestep that, that's a kill that goes over. Maybe we start to see the top lane swing.
It easily could have been a 2-0 rumble if that bot lane play works out, that top lane play works out. Hauntzzer surviving a number of these kind of plays, and then also he had the second highest damage on the team, so it wasn't like he was just running away from turrets while Envy tries to kill him. He was turning a lot of plays back around.
So we're in that weird place. We're going into game 2, seeing such a lopsided matchup. I think typically we'd be like, well, yeah, flip things on their head. Let's try a completely new strategy. But I almost get the sense, just based on the analysis, that for Envy it's about just run it back. This time hit your skill shots. This time do that 1 extra tick of damage, and it might fall in your favor.
There's a little bit of that. I also would like to see them try and deny TSM a little bit more of their bread and butter if they can.
Okay.
And we're on the brink of having another one of those unsatisfactory 2-0 weeks for TSM, which they seem to get a lot of.
Right.
And it's very classic TSM. They lose certain parts of the game. They leave windows open for other teams that could exploit them. And then they still just kind of end up winning in the end. But at the end of the day, they don't feel like they're kind of improving as a team. So going into game 2, yes, Envy needs to do those things. But I think TSM, even though that was close to a perfect game, actually do want to play better.
I think there were a couple things that TSM did right. You saw some of the Ashe arrows be really well timed in terms of like diving the bot lane for first kill and those kinds of things. But for the most part, Envy on red side, just grab yourself the Talia, maybe last rotation on red side if they're not going to ban it first on blue side. So they have a couple opportunities to get their comfort a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Envy on the red side. We're going to step away for a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if Team Envy can bounce back in game 2 against TSM. Stay with us. You're watching the North American LCS.